Hi, you guys. You know, I hope that I can be an example of somebody who changed gracefully. That's one of my hopes. How are you guys doing tonight? It's late. This is late. It's 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm usually nowhere near social media at this time of night, but I decided instead of hanging out with you guys in the morning to try hanging out with you guys in the nighttime and see what that's like. Hi. Hi, Shawanika. How are you? Antoine, good to meet you. Hi. Sheesh, thank you. These are just some good old classic regular everyday rings. Hi, Alicia, how are you? Good to see you. So, I'm kind of excited about tonight's talk, and I hope that it can be interactive, kind of like how our morning talks have been. Usually I have a cup of coffee, but right now I'm drinking a cup of dandelion and caramel tea, just in case anybody's wondering, with a little bit of macadamia milk and some stevia. It is so good. Hi, brown balls, beautiful. How are you? I see lots of hellos and highs and lots of hearts. So I want to acknowledge you and let you know that I see you, and I'm grateful for your love. Yeah. Oh, somebody said I love your scenery. You know, I set this up so I can come and hang out with you guys. I lit a candle for you. I've got some little tea lights, but I don't think you can see them. Anyway, so tonight I wanted to talk about changing gracefully. I know that during this time we all kind of have some space that we haven't had before, whether it be space to ourselves or space with people that we haven't had to spend a lot of time with before. But I think all of us are having some time where we're switching, we're changing a little bit, and I wanted to just spend some time talking about that. Is anybody kind of changing? Anybody kind of moving and turning into something else, or morphing into something else? I want to see some hearts if you're sort of changing. And if you don't mind, share with me some of the ways that you're changing, or some of the stuff that's changing within you that's kind of like, oh my goodness, I wasn't expecting that. Yes, Chanel says, I am definitely evolving. I see some yes indeeds and some yeses with multiple S's. Some people are moving. I've heard a lot of people are moving. So some people are changing location and just changing in general. Well, I wanted to ask you some questions, right? So why does change happen, right? Like, why does change happen? They say change is inevitable, but at what points does change have no choice but to take place? One, I would say, is age or time. Our age, our physical body can handle things at a younger age that it can't handle as we get older. So there are things within us that just change naturally, right? So maybe some people's body change, and so they have no choice but to go with that flow, right? Somebody said change is forced or chosen. I hear that 1,000%. Somebody says life is evolution. So yes, I'm always evolving with it, becoming a better version of myself continually. Yeah, and I love that one that says change is forced or chosen. I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that. Another reason why change happens inevitably without you being able to manage it or say don't do that is you've been exposed to the same thing 1,000 times and you just can't look at it anymore. How many of you guys have been exposed to something over and over and over and over again, and you get to a breaking point where it's like, I was able to handle watching that over and over again, but I can't look at it anymore. I can't experience that again. I can't go through that one more time. I've been there. I've done that. I got the t-shirt. I don't want the hoodie, right? I see some yeses, a lot of hearts, right? And then another reason why change happens is literal actual force. For instance, some strange disease breaks out in the world, and all of a sudden everyone is forced to stay in their homes. That's a change from the normal everyday experience that we have. It's a change, and there's nothing we can do about it, right? We can't just do whatever we want anyway, because then we have the risk of falling victim to the thing that we're being protected from. A lot of times, forced change feels so uncomfortable, but it's the change that we need the most, because if we don't succumb to it, if we don't submit to it, then we'll put ourselves in danger. How many times have you seen change coming and it's on its way and you're running from it? And the further you run from this change that feels so uncomfortable, the closer you get to danger, right? So change is necessary. It's inevitable. It's this thing that we try to avoid. I see some absolutely's. We try to get out of it. We try to get out of the idea of it. But the truth is that change happens whether we want it to or not. Somebody said, I used to run from change. Well, what does change look like on the inside? How do you know when you're changing? I want to be really vulnerable and tell you guys about the way it feels for me. Because as I begin to evolve, and we always are evolving, like someone said earlier, but as people begin to notice my evolution or my growth or my change, I'm getting DMs and emails and things like that about other people's change and other people's being nervous about change. The other day I did a talk about creatives and being brave as a creative. And I got so many messages, even in the comments section, but also in DM and in email, about the way it feels to put yourself out there as a creative when you never feel finished. You never feel like you're done. So for my creatives, what does change look like on the inside? What does it look like to you when nobody's watching? One way that I think change looks like to me, myself, is it feels like, oh, what is that? Right? It's not something that you were trying to do, trying to fix, trying to change, trying to evolve in. It's just this moment when you wake up one day and you're like, oh, what is that? What is that? And a lot of times we get afraid to lean into that, oh, what is that feeling? Right? We might see something on our body and say, oh, what is that? We might feel something in our heart and say, oh, what is that? We might be talking to a friend that we've had for years, and suddenly out of nowhere, they're saying something and we're listening, saying, oh, what is that? Right? I see some thumbs up. I love this. Change is seeing the new shape of the world around you. Exactly. It's that moment where we look around us and say, oh my goodness. Or we look within and we say, oh my goodness, what is that? And we can respond with, should I ignore it or should I explore it? The second way I experience change is, I don't want that anymore. That's what comes up for me. I don't want that anymore. I might wake up one morning and look in the mirror and see some cellulite on my right thigh and say, I don't want that anymore. I might be in a relationship with a very toxic friend and I'm calling this person a friend and I'm saying that I love them, but it's making me sick. And suddenly I just say, I don't want that anymore. Change is a decision that we make where we say, I don't want that anymore. How do we respond to our body saying, I don't want that anymore? Do we admit it or do we suffocate it? We have two choices. We can admit aloud and be active and proactive about getting that thing out of our life, or we suffocate it. We numb it. I know for many years for myself, there were so many things happening in my life over long periods of time where it felt like everything was going too good for me to get in the way of messing it up. I had such a large group of people around me, such a big team, such a big world watching. And I'm saying, I probably should not admit that I don't want to do that anymore, or I don't feel for that anymore, that's not my truth anymore. But instead of admitting it, many times I found myself suffocating things or numbing things because too many people were comfortable with the flow. Even though I wasn't comfortable, so many people were comfortable that I decided I'll just stick to this for a little while longer. And the third way that change feels within is my body is morphing. Oh my goodness, my body is changing. I find for myself, and I see somebody saying it. Wow, food, music, and content. Yeah. So I find for myself that my body changes when I'm changing. My body morphs when I'm changing. And that's one of the reasons why I came and wanted to do this live today, is because people keep asking me, how did you lose weight? Or what are you doing with your body, etc., etc. And anybody on here who is a woman understands that a woman's body does all kinds of things within the span of 28 days over and over again. If you have different things going on in your body, then parts of your body will swell and parts of your body will become smaller and shrink. But all throughout a 28-day cycle around the moon, a woman's body changes all the time. People make comments on that and say, how did you lose those 8 pounds? Well, I'm not on my cycle. How did you gain 6 pounds? Well, my fibroids are acting up. Whatever the case is, women know that some changes happen because of you just being a woman. But other change happens in your body when you're changing yourself, your mind, your spirit, your friendships, your relationships. And I wanted to make sure that I said that today, that sometimes when you're letting go of toxicity, when you're letting go of toxic people, toxic relationships, toxic things going into your eye gates and into your ear gates, etc., sometimes your body will change. And people will ask you, how did you change your body? What did you do? Why do you look like you're glowing? Why do you look brighter? And you want to say, I stopped calling a couple of people, but you don't want to sound like you're being dismissive. Well, how do you respond to your body changing? You can either embrace it or you can act like it's not happening. You can embrace it and begin to recognize that you do look a little bit different than you did before. Or you can make believe it's not happening and make people feel strange for asking you what's going on. A part of embracing your body morphing is recognizing that maybe conventional systems that morph people's bodies are not the systems that morphed mine. Maybe the fact that I'm smiling more, I'm reading more books about self-help, are giving me ways to love my body more, love myself more, are making me not take in certain toxic foods and toxic things. Maybe I'm not on a diet, right? And maybe it's okay for me to say that. I'll be honest, change can be really, really awkward sometimes because people are expecting you to say something that they can handle. And the truth is they don't know what you worked. They don't know how hard you worked. They don't know what you had to do in order to experience the change that you're having. I'm seeing a load of comments and I'm doing my best to read as many as I can. But I see somebody said inner spiritual space. Love Demny Levadem says inner spiritual space, and it's so true. Your inner spiritual space changes your environment, changes your vibe, changes your body, changes the way that you look, changes the way that you speak. And a lot of times when you're changing spiritually, which I know a lot of us are changing spiritually right now, we've got a lot more time to be in tune. And a lot of us are changing spiritually. I wrote a book called How to Hear From God. A lot of you guys picked that up. I saw hundreds of downloads over on my website. So I know a lot of you guys are really talking to God like never before. And it's not like you can say, hey, Lord, can you go over to Sharon's house and explain to her what's going on in my spirit? No, you don't get to do that. You just get to experience the change. But I wanted to encourage you today to embrace the change. I know that it might feel awkward. I know that it might feel weird. I know that you feel like people are looking at you different than they looked at you before. Some of you, your whole vibe has changed. Some of you, the way that you talk has changed. Some of you, the way that you eat have changed. Some of you have stopped drinking, stopped doing certain drugs, stopped smoking, etc. Some of you have stopped different things and you're worried about people noticing. You're worried about people seeing it and saying something. And you don't know how you're going to respond when they open up their mouths to tell you, you don't always look like that. You didn't used to do that. I'll be honest, change has a certain capacity, right? It can only go to a certain amount until you start to block it. And a lot of times we block the completion of an evolution or of a time period by being afraid to embrace it because of fear of what people are going to say or do. We might have lost 15 pounds and we know that people are going to notice, but we really wanted to lose 25 pounds, but we don't lose the last 10 because people are like, I like you thick. We might get a degree and become a nurse. We really want to become a doctor, but we don't want to make anybody feel less than, so we just stick to that nursing degree and we go into that field. We might want to become a singer on a major record label, but we stick to the independent route because we feel fear of people judging us for having these big, lofty dreams, goals, and ideas. We don't feel like having to explain to somebody that we want more. We don't feel like having to explain to somebody that we're willing to do the work to get to our next level. So 3 ways that change look for me on the inside is, oh, what's that? I don't want that anymore. And my body is morphing. I know that's a weird one to add, but I notice it all throughout social media. Women's bodies changing and people asking questions that you can't answer with words all the time. A woman always wants to nurture and nourish others and help others and pull others up. But sometimes she can't say eat more broccoli because it's not really what happened. She can't say drink more water because it's not really what happened. I wrote a whole book, How to Hear from God. It's only 26 pages, but I wrote it because I couldn't just say drink water. We try and be cordial and we try and be kind, but in this age of information, where we really want to love others, where we really want to give to others, where we really want to help other people, people only have an attention span the length of a comment. And so we're unable to give people everything that they're asking for because they think that they can get it in a bite-sized little popcorn microwave moment. And that can't happen. So cheers to everybody who's doing the work right now, because I know there are so many of you who are. I know that there are so many of you who are doing the work and happy to have a little bit of privacy where you can figure out what you look like, or you can look in the mirror. Some of you guys may have seen a post that I put up recently. I've decided to be very vulnerable with my change and with my growth and with my evolution because people saw me fall. So I felt like when I fell, I felt like if they saw me fall, then God let them see me get up by your grace, by your mercy. If they saw me hit the floor, then God let the same power that allows me to fall, allow me to get back up, and let it be seen that you're glorified. Let it be seen that it was only by your grace, only by your mercy, only by you. So I am sharing my evolution and being vulnerable in that way because I was vulnerable in the other way. You know, so in the same way that people can say, what's the catalyst to falling? Hopefully I'll be an example one day of what the catalyst is to getting back up, of what the catalyst is to change and grow gracefully, right? And that's not my goal in life, but in this season, that's one of the things that I hope for. So those are the 3 things that make me feel like I'm changing. When I see or feel an ooh, what's that? I might say, should I explore it? When somebody else looks at me and says, ooh, what's that? They also want to explore it. Sometimes they're saying in their mind, does she need advice? Does she need attention? Does she want us to watch her, look at her? The same way that you respond to change in you, people respond to change in you. People look at you the same way you're looking at yourself. The same way you say, ooh, what's that? It's the same way people are saying, ooh, what's that? Only thing is that they don't have the opportunity all the time to help you through it, walk you through it, push you through it, know exactly what you're going through. So sometimes as we're evolving, as we're changing, as we're growing, even as social media is such a big thing and we can all see each other's changes sometimes, we got to give people grace because they're watching and they're freaked out. You looked one way yesterday, you look a different way today. Got to give people grace. A lot of times people ask me, how do you handle the comment section? How do you handle what people say? How do you handle the naysayers and the haters? I don't call people naysayers and haters who are curious and wondering what happened. They're just as curious as me. They're just as mesmerized by the hand of God on my life as I am. They're just as freaked out that the Holy Spirit can move and change somebody's heart. They're just as freaked out that somebody can fall and glow. That somebody can fall and get back up. So your change is a testimony. It's not bragging rights. It's not a ticket to be mean to people because they're asking questions. It's your chance to say, oh my goodness, are you going through changing too? Are you looking to become your best self too? Well, let me tell you how I did it. So if you ever look in my comments and you see somebody say, Chrisette, you lost so much weight, how'd you do it? And you see me say something real, like I went to cognitive behavioral therapy, it's because I refuse to make people feel bad for being mesmerized by the grace of God. That's God being glorified. Change inside of me feels like I don't want that anymore. And I respond to that by saying, do I admit that or do I ignore that? And people look at me and say, she doesn't do that anymore. A lot of times, people will say, she's evolving, and they'll notice what's actually happening. And other times, people might say, oh, she's fake. Because people only have a short attention span sometimes, right? So you've changed. You don't do something you used to do anymore. They have a life. They've got kids they're raising. They're trying to get their bill paid on time. They're trying to make dinner for their family, whatever it is. They don't have time to see how genuine you are. All they know is you were something 2 days ago. You're something else today. We live in a world full of people who are not real. You're probably one of them. That's the quickest way that I can get my mind to stop thinking about you. Because the truth is that when people see your change, they want to understand it. But everybody doesn't have time to understand it. So in order to numb that, I want to understand, I actually want to know, they blow you off as fake. Don't be offended by that. They just didn't have time. What I tend to find is that people who just dismiss your evolution, dismiss your change right when it's happening, their kids grow up, they finish feeding their family, they pay their bills. Have grace for them. Because when they're finished doing what they're doing, probably scroll down your feed one more time and notice that you've still continued evolving, that you've still continued to grow. Then they might ask a question, and their question might be a little awkward at first. Might be a little weird. Are you pregnant? No, sis. With purpose. You gotta give people grace. Instagram is quick. People don't have time to get to know you in 10 seconds. We're grateful for IGTV and IG Live. But this is only for the people who have enough time to do it. And some of you are going to leave here and come back and watch it when it goes live later, because you might have to make up your kid's bed or whatever the case is. We can't get so upset when people don't understand everything that we're doing. You got to give people grace. The last thing I wanted to say is this. So the last way that I feel changed, like I said, is, oh, my body is morphing. The way I can respond to that is, do I embrace that or do I ignore that? But sometimes when other people see your body morphing, they say, is she sick or pregnant? These are normal things that happen. People lose 16 pounds, they could be sick. People gain 16 pounds, they could be pregnant. These are normal thoughts that somebody would have. The fact that we say them out loud in the comment section is questionable, but they're normal thoughts. They could ask if you're sick or pregnant, if something is going on with your body, or what I find people really want to know when your body changes is why. Somebody says she might be on crack. Somebody else, you guys are so funny. Somebody said shaking my head, right? But sometimes when your body changes and you might say you lose a bunch of weight or you gain a bunch of weight or whatever the case may be, one question that I find people ask a lot around weight loss is, who or what is she changing for? Put some hearts in the comments or whatever that thing is called section. If you lose weight and people think that you're doing it to impress somebody, you're doing it to show somebody that you look good, you're doing it for bathing suit season or some other thing, outside of yourself. I find very, very often, okay, I see a load of hearts, but I find very, very often that when I decide to do something different, people think that I'm doing it for somebody, for some industry, for some, profound thing outside of myself. The point I wanted to make today or tonight, I see some ma'ams, right? Or just because it's the healthy thing to do. Yeah, that would make sense, right? You're trying to be healthy. But what I find is my response to that thought process of people thinking that I'm doing something for somebody else is for me to always remember why I'm actually doing things. When you fall, when you get to, somebody said, what's the topic? I'm about to sum it up right now. When you fall, when you get to your bottom, when you get to a worst point, right? Because we all have a bunch of things that happen in life, and there's some things in my life I can't compare one to the other because they're both or all traumatic. But when you fall and you're in that space right at the hit, tell me if I'm right. You are the only person who is there at the bottom. When you hit your head, your mama didn't hit her head, your brother didn't hit his head, your cousin didn't hit his head, your husband, your wife didn't hit their head. When you fall, you are the one who fell. When you go down to rock bottom, that is your moment to have an up close and personal moment with a place you never want to see again. When it's time to get up from a fall and you get introduced to God on the ground like that, you are not getting up for anybody else except for that broken heart on the inside of you. When you fall, people think they understand what your crash feels like. They see blood, they see the ambulance, they see stitches, they see bandages. They can talk about it, they can write about it, they can gossip about it, but they cannot have that experience on your behalf. The easiest way to meet God is to fall flat on your face. God's strength is made perfect in our weakness. The place where he shows up the clearest is when we make the biggest mistakes, when we make the biggest falls, when we hit our heads the hardest. There is no more clear time than when you are flat on your face. There is no better time to be aligned and positioned and attentive than when you fall flat on your face. I just wrote some lyrics to a song, and the end of the lyric is, you introduced me to God. The topic of the song is falling. The topic of the song is being gossiped about, being talked about. But the beauty of the song is, I would have never known God this way if it wasn't for falling on my face. So guess what's going to happen as I begin to hear God in this broken place? I am going to change. I am going to evolve. I am going to grow. Do you think that on my face with blood, bandages, and stitches, I am wondering what anyone else thinks? The best time to channel in to what God thinks is when you are on your face, flat up against the pavement, because he will meet you there. And if you are brave enough to let the naysayers be second to the voice of God, to let the gossipers be second second to what God has to say to you and about you, your evolution, your change is going to glorify God like nothing else in your life ever has. God loves to heal. He loves to lift. He loves to meet you where you're broken. He loves to meet you where you've been hurting. He loves to meet you where you don't have answers. He loves to meet you where all hope seems lost. He loves to meet you in particular in a scenario where somebody else wouldn't have made it out. If you've been through something in your life and you can think of a couple of people that if they had to go through it, they wouldn't have made it out, make some noise. Let me see some hearts. You've been through some stuff that if your sister had to go through it, she wouldn't have made it out. If your cousin had to go through what you went through, they wouldn't have made it out. Some of us have been in ugly situations and experiences that were specifically designed for us to hear from God. No, evil is not God. God is not evil. But sometimes God says, you know what? I really have something I really need to talk to her about. I really want to get this into her mind. I really want her to evolve in this particular way. I see something in her that she doesn't see in herself. And the only way that I can put the pieces back together is if they break. So I'm going to go ahead and give circumstance permission to break her. That is not the time to see who's looking. Take advantage of the fall. Take advantage of that part where you hit rock bottom. Take advantage of the breaking. Take advantage of the season where it seems like all hope is supposed to be lost. Let everybody think that if they want to. You take that time to be just as close to God as He's been trying to be with you. Because He wants to put your pieces back together. He wants to recreate you. He wants to remold you. You don't got to tell nobody that's what He's doing. You don't owe anybody any explanations in that moment, because in this moment, you are broken. A lot of times we think people want to hear from us when we're broken. People can see when you're broken. People can tell. People can see the blood across your face. People can see the stitches. People can see the insanity that you're saying out of your mouth and that you're acting out. People can see your addiction. People can see when you're broken. You don't have to explain that you're broken when you're broken. People know. And if they want to make believe that, oh, well, you're the CEO of a big business, you're not allowed to be broken, they know you're broken. Oh, well, you're a mom, you're not allowed to be broken. They know you're broken. Oh, well, you're the father of this household, you're not allowed to be broken. They know you're broken. A lot of times people don't want to talk about you being broken because it will showcase how broken they are, and it will make them have to do work to either help you heal or be still while you heal. Because the truth of the matter is, a lot of people's next level is subject to your healing. So take advantage of being broken. Let it be what God ordained it to be. A time where you and Him get real close. And when you start to come out of your brokenness, and you start to come up out of the pavement, and you start to grow this rose out of concrete, people start saying things like, you're glowing. You will have spent so much time with God that all you will want to do is say, you can glow too. This is how. I just wanted to say that today because I keep seeing your glowing, sis, on my Instagram. And I keep seeing what's your skin regimen. And I keep seeing, what are you eating? And I keep saying, I thought you were vegan. And I'm like, as much as a skin regimen is important, as much as drinking water is monumental, there is nothing like taking advantage of a season of what seems like uncertainty and getting certain about who you are. When you fall, Romans 12:2 says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. This is an inside job. This is an inside job. It won't show up on your face first. You might have some swelling. You might have some bruises. People might notice that you got bags under your eyes. People might notice that your nails are chipped. People might notice you ain't got no edges. People might notice that you're a little ashy around the elbows. Because God is doing an inside job. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that, right? That's not all. Renewing of your mind is not all. After your mind is renewed, then you will know, you will discern, you will be able to understand the difference between God's perfect will and what is not God's perfect will. And your steps will become ordered. You'll suddenly have a better idea of where to go and what to do. You'll suddenly have a better idea of what direction you really want to take. What you really want to make for dinner. What you really want to drink. Who you really want to talk to. Because when God comes on the inside of you after a fall, and he renews your mind and transforms your mind, you don't want the same things anymore. Those things might be simple. You might want to bake your chicken instead of frying it. You might want to spend a little bit more time alone. You might want to go to the gym to get some stress off. You start making these changes, and if you're brave enough to embrace the changes, not ignore the changes, explore the changes, talk to God about the changes, next thing you know, one step at a time, niggas gonna be in your comment talking about you glowing, sis. So I hope that as I grow and as I evolve, I can be a good example of what it means to change gracefully. Grace means that there is exactly enough room, exactly enough space, exactly enough time, exactly enough tools for me to become who God has called me to be in exactly the right amount of time. I don't have to worry. I don't have to be anxious. I don't have to wonder if people are watching. Grace is the perfect storm for me to become who I'm called to be. So get up by the grace of God. Glow by the grace of God. Change by the grace of God. Evolve by the grace of God. And it's all for the glory of God. It's not about you. Don't take people personally. Have grace for people like God has grace for you. I hope that helps somebody. I've been wanting to say that for a while, but I didn't really know what words to use, and it came to me early this morning. I said, finally, I've been trying to figure out how to put that. But I'm glad I got to share it with you today over a cup of dandelion tea. So I'm going to, I'll leave this live, and you guys can comment on it when it goes live, because there are quite a few comments, and if you haven't noticed, I do like to talk back to you guys in the comments. That's one of my things. I don't apologize for it. I'm just like that. My parents are people. And so I've become a people person in that way. I just like to hear people's thoughts and ideas and perspectives. So I'll leave this live on my IGTV, and then you guys go ahead and comment there, and I will come in and say what's up on there. All right, love y'all all so much. Thanks for hanging with me at this late hour. I usually am, dressed for bed, which is kind of my daily look these days. But it was fun to hang out with you at nighttime. You can't see all my candles, but it smells like black cherry. What is that? Black cherry Merlot. That's what it smells like in here, which actually smells really nice. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.